No, Rebecca.
Yeah, thank you very much for all you do for us in Tallahassee. I really appreciate it. And I like 99% of what you do. And here's going to be the 1% that I didn't like that you did this season. House Bill 1195 is known as the glitch bill. It's also known as the gag bill by the condo owners. As you know, I'm president of the Condo Alliance of Okaloosa Island. I like what you do on the Sunshine Law and free speech, but I'd ask that you consider supporting repealing a section of this law, because this law prevents condo owners from receiving phone numbers and emails from their fellow condo owners through their association. So it takes power from the many and concentrates the power in the hands of the few. And you said tonight that we have the opportunity to make the government weak and the people strong. This section of House Bill 1195 does just the opposite. So I know it's the first time I've ever brought it up to you. It just became effective July 1st. But this is a real firestorm. And in fixing the glitches, they fix all the glitches but one, and this one supports bad actors. So thank you again for all you do. I appreciate it.
You're right, Rebecca, and there were other good things in that bill. I was aware of that provision and was very uncomfortable with it, but there were other things in that bill that I think will fix some of the problems that you've seen in some of these condo associations across the state, where there have been some real bad activity by the boards. You know, I always say I actually, in my legal practice, represent some condo associations, so I say this with love, but I think that Al-Qaeda started as a condo association. Rick, thanks for having me on the show this morning, by the way.
For those of you who didn't suffer through our show this morning, the interview with Matt and Don is on our website, freedom945.com. What do you think about, we didn't get to this today, what do you think about Destin attaching their trash collection to their property taxes? They're becoming a collection agency for waste management. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm against it, you know, we've always got to be careful at the state level on over-meddling in the affairs of local government, but that doesn't mean we're not entitled to our opinions on those things. You know, I posted my opinion on the Casey Anthony verdict, and folks said, well, you're a state representative, you shouldn't be commenting on that. And I thought, well, just because I'm a state representative doesn't mean I got a lobotomy. I know that they may think that was the case, but no, you know, that's a circumstance where you're allowing a private company to use the police power of government. And when you start, every time the private sector and the public sector get closer and closer, you move towards a model that is not based on capitalism and free enterprise, but one that's functionally, you know, a communist-style approach. And I'm not saying that everyone in Destin's a communist. Don't put that on the internet. But what I'm saying is that you're moving in the wrong direction, because government and the private sector ought not commingle. So, yes.
Two questions, Matt. It's my understanding that the State Textbook Review Board no longer has civilians on it; they're all educators.
Which is, yeah, that is correct, because it is the Department of Education that has selected those folks. I would encourage you to work, you know, to communicate to Governor Scott that you'd like to see civilians back on that board, and it can be repopulated. But look, we will never get the ultimate review that we want from anyone in Tallahassee. And you know, sorry to have to lay that out there. The best way to have control over instructional materials is at the local level.
Second question.
Sure.
Florida is the only high-population state in the country that requires that ethanol be placed in the gasoline. It's the only one. There are two states that are not Midwestern agricultural states that require ethanol in the gasoline. The remaining 4 or 5 or 6 are all Midwestern corn growers, and we've only got one functional ethanol producing plant in the state of Florida. I don't understand.
Well, I always joke that the only place where ethanol is economically viable are the places that have early presidential primaries. There seems to be an odd link there, but that is a repeal, or I'll be sponsoring this next year. I'll be sponsoring the repeal of that requirement.
And considering that, how bad ethanol is for boat engines, here we are surrounded by water.
Yeah, but not. I'll be supporting that repealer bill, and so I'll bring that bill number back, and hopefully you can help me. Dave, Commissioner Parasot.
Yeah, just to follow on to his, and that's more of a legal question, Matt. with the, go back to the Destin thing with the trash bill, all right, that is a non-ad valorem assessment, all right. Some of the criticism on that is that, well, then, if you don't pay that, when you pay your tax bill, that they can, you're subjecting your property to a tax sale. Is that, is that true? I mean, in other words, if you pay the tax part of your bill, you paid your taxes. That is not a tax on your house. That is a non-ad valorem assessment.
Yeah. Rebecca may have a different answer than me, so I'll let her answer it first. Yeah.
I will tell you, on Okaloosa Island, we pay the MSBU. It's a non-ad valorem assessment, and they can take your house if you don't pay it. So I think if the tax in Destin, where they collect it on the trash bill, they can take your house, because I know they can take houses.
They put a lien on it.
Yeah, they can take a lien on it.
They put a lien
And that's what they do on Okaloosa Island. They've done that for 8 years on the MSBU.
Well, I don't know the answer, but let's assume for a moment, I don't know, but let's assume for a moment that it's true that they can't take your home away literally for not paying that portion. If you and I were to go and walk on Main Street in Destin right now and ask folks that, how many of them would know it? I'm a state representative and I don't know it. And you ask the question and you're a county commissioner, you may know it, but I mean, to me, you just don't use the police power of government to support any one private entity. Government should not be in the business of picking winners and losers in the private sector, and Waste Management is a private company. So, that's my source of concern, is that, to me, even if it's accurate that you couldn't take your home for it, it's still wrong.
Now, I don't know how it is in Destin, but see, in Okaloosa County, all right, your tax bill amounts are set by the county, and you pay the county for your trash pickup. All right, we have a contract with Waste Management, but the county is the one who actually bills you. Either if you're on the county water sewer, you get it as part of your water sewer bill, or if you're not part of that, then you're billed separately.
And the county raised the water and sewer rates, right?
Pardon?
The county raised the water and sewer rates. No? Did not?
Nope.
I'm going to make one more comment on that. Again, if you live in a condo, which I do, your water and sewer bill and your trash bill is paid by your condo association. So if I individually don't pay my trash bill, they're not going to take my house. If I lived in Destin with this new rule, they could take my house.
That's why.
Okay?
And if I have a dispute with the garbage pickup at my house in Destin, who do I call? City Hall?
I would. They're functioning as their tax collector, so I'd call City Hall. But you live on Overbrook.
Well, that's just This makes me
I know. I knocked on Gay's door. And I tried to give her my campaign literature. And
I said, get out of here!
And she in response gave me a Tea Party flyer. Cross promoting. I'm sorry. Did you have another question?
But what we're talking about in Destin is a public-private partnership that is a red flag for Agenda 21.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't subscribe to the notion that every public-private partnership is an Agenda 21 conspiracy.
I understand.
I don't know that this one is or is not. I know it's troubling on a lot of levels.
I understand.
Did you get my email about the telecom issue, by the way?
Yes, I did.
Agenda 21?
I'm working on it.
Thank you. Great. See, those emails go both ways. Yeah, Clay.
Hey, Matt, thanks. I think you're doing a great job. On those regulations that you're going to review, and my first question that you already answered is there's going to be sort of an open forum for everybody to look at that review process. And as hopefully a lot of these regs get, reviewed and repealed, and they come off the list, and we're less burdened with all this, that'll be great. But if that's a purely subjective process, that you guys are going to go through in your review, is there some sort of an objective approach to reviewing these things? Like the way you would review a new regulation that came before the legislature, you would say, we're in a constitution, does it say that we have the power to go ahead and pass this, for one? And then two, what good does it do? Does it promote, the freedom of, the citizens and prosperity, or, like that? I mean, is that same set of criteria going to be applied to the review of all these things, so we can see that there's something, you know, it makes sense to us, in other words, there's
Well,
some sort of
there
rationale.
is, but what's different about this process is that in the past, the administrative agency promulgating the rule would be the sole jurist to determine whether or not the balancing test was met. And I don't think they ought to have that authority to be the judges of themselves. And so here's what we're requiring on the website that I mentioned. They have a specific spot on a form where they have to say, what is the constitutional and statutory authority for this rule? And they have to say what it is. Then, what is the public welfare safety benefit of this rule? Then, what are the estimated compliance costs for Floridians to comply? Now, instead of them weighing all of those things, we put that on a website and open it up for public comment. So that you could say, wait a second, they say that this is the cost, but it's not really. Here's the real cost. Well, they say that's the statutory authority, but it really isn't. The public then provides their input. We get all of that information together in one packet, and then we, the legislature, ultimately determine whether or not that rule stays or goes. And if I vote for stupid rules to stay in the process, then you can hold me accountable for that, and you ought to. Yeah, Brenda.
I want to understand something on E-Verify. And you said that the Republicans in the agricultural and citrus areas would not support it. I read an article from Palm Beach, and it has to do with H-2B visas. And it said 6,484 foreign workers are brought into Florida to work in these kind of jobs. And I know they take the tourist jobs. If we've got these legal workers coming in, what are we up against? I mean, they just have
Well, they overstay their visas. They come legally. Then there are many folks who legally acquire a visa to come do agricultural work in Florida. But they complete that work, and then instead of going home, they stay to continue that work. And they're not here legally anymore. And that delta of time provides a huge profit center for agribusiness.
So they're needing more workers in that area than we're providing for them?
Correct.
Is that,
Yeah. Yeah. And there are many of them make the argument, well, you know, we just need a guest worker program, and we'll support E-Verify when we get a good enough guest worker program. But see, that's a red herring because they know that the state of Florida does not have the authority to do that. Only the federal government does. And so it's a way to block reform.